such a tough guy thing to say, right? He throws in the "you will."
Half an hour after he flew away.
Yeah, right. It's almost like he whispered it. Like if this were real life, like the guy flew into space and he says, "You will."
He waited till he was far away.
Yeah, come on now, bats.
Well, welcome back to the Last Row Podcast, as we like to call it here.
So can we just? Should we just call ourselves the Piod now? Can we be the Piod?
Well, let me redo the intro here.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Last Row Piod, the Piod.
Thank you.
My name is Drew, and as always, as you already know, across the room, joining me is my very good friend,
Hello,
Mr. Badway. You guys know the drill by now. We have a website, thelastrowpodcast.com. Find us on Twitter at thelastrowpod, facebook.com/thelastrowpod. We have a Google Plus page, which probably nobody knows about.
what is it now? Google
It's
Plus?
this weird technology called Google Plus.
It's like Facebook but worse.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's we are also on iTunes. Hit the subscribe button, please, and leave us a 5-star review if you're out there. We very much appreciate it.
So we just got back from the theater. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
So how does that rank as a colon?
Got
to
a
you?
colon.
I
and
mean,
it's
we
got-
love colons here.
It's got a great clean colon. Tell you what, Dawn of Justice is a very, very topical. It's very on point. I like the 3 words better than just 1 word. And I'm digging the V too.
You like
right?
the V?
I like the V.
It's like a Supreme Court
Yeah,
case, too.
exactly.
So it's
Yes.
not like a low level,
Yeah.
low circuit court.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about all things Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. We are going to be talking about what we liked, what we didn't like. There will be a spoiler-free zone, which will be the first half, and we will let you know when to stop listening if you had not listened yet, as we will go into spoilerific portions of the podcast. And to wrap it up, we're going to go through some listener mail, which involves a Demolition Man reboot, which we will cast for you.
From our very good friend
Yes.
named Chris. Thank you, Chris.
So as we get into the spoiler-free zone of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, Rotten Tomato 30%, Drew.
As of 7:02 p.m.
Oh.
on March 25th.
Yes, the movie just came out like 5 hours ago. 74% user rating.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
74 is good. 7.7 IMDb, which I heard was a brofest lately. Did you see that article?
Yeah, but I also saw weeks ago, 6 months ago, of a negative campaign that was
Yeah.
by automated bots.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, the internets were hacked, but there was also another thing that was a negative campaign against them, not a positive
Well,
campaign.
what I took away from the story was like Shawshank is always like number 1 on every list on IMDb. It's the number 1 rated movie. I didn't know that was a bro movie. I just thought it was a nice movie with Andy Dufresne. Metacritic 44 for Dawn of Justice. Is that good or bad? I'm not that familiar with Metacritic, but I know it's a good measure.
Let me break it down. I remember looking at the Metacritic breakdown, and it was like 10 positive, 10 negative, and like 40 like middle of the road. It was mixed.
I think that's fair to say this is a mixed review movie.
I could
we'll
see
get into
that
it.
being true.
So, long story short, we're not going to get into the synopsis. Let's break it down. We just watched it. Drew, should you go see this movie if you had? Yes or no?
100% yes. Because you need to judge it for yourself. Like, I know there's a lot of people on the fence that may not be a fan, or maybe you're like, oh, hey, should I see this? And, then I look on the internet and they're like, oh, thanks for writing this negative review. I'll just wait till it comes out on Netflix. It's like, you really going to let some a-hole on the internet that's blogging in their basement, like us podcasting in my basement,
We're in
tell me you shouldn't watch?
we're in your future child's parents' basement.
I'm in my
right?
Whistler's daughter's father.
Yeah.
We are in my future child's father's basement.
Yes.
But no, listen, make the judgment for yourself. I'm telling you to go watch this. Don't watch it because I'm telling you, and don't not watch it because some blogger told you not to watch it. Make the choice for yourself. If you feel like watching it, sure, go ahead and watch it. It's not that expensive to go watch it. If you're strapped for cash, maybe wait till it comes out on Netflix.
You're strapped for cash. Well, I agree with you in the sense that I think people should know, or you shouldn't be that weak-willed to see or not see a movie based on a blogger or some reviews. I would say if you like the character Batman, or if you like the character Superman, you want to see what it would like if they punch each other in the face, you go right for it, you go and watch it. It's not a waste of your time, despite the pile-on smear campaign would lead you to believe. And this is coming from a guy who really has no horse in this race here. I'm not a huge superhero guy. I'm more of a any movie but superhero guy.
I mean, it's not in space, so it's got it's not a space movie, so it's already got that going for Badway.
Superhero movies might not be in my top 10 genre list, and I had a hell of a time with this movie.
It's not a medieval times movie,
No,
so
it's
that's
not medieval
going for
times.
You. No, but I think the interesting thing, and this is where I think we have an interesting dynamic on this show today, because I'm obviously like a super fan, like over the top, probably biased as hell super fan.
Yes.
And I feel like you're a good contrast to that because, again, you're a casual fan. And I think that's going to be interesting as we go through some of these questions, because if you haven't read the comics, which I don't know how many you may or may not have read.
I know how many I've read.
How many?
0.
So I think you're an interesting like take on it, because things like, does Batman kill? Does these philosophical questions that people get upset about?
Yeah.
I think that'll be interesting to go through. And the first thing that I would ask you is, what did you think of like Superman and Batman on the screen together? Like, was that something that you were waiting for your whole life? Were you ever thinking about that?
No, I didn't know it was a thing, first of all. And so the funny thing about me and superhero movies is I've seen a lot of them, but it's really because we watch movies together.
Right.
And I watch them mostly with you. When I watch a superhero movie, it's usually with you. So I've seen the buildup. I've seen Man of Steel. And if I had to pick a favorite superhero, it would be Batman. I've seen those previous ones back to Tim Burton and fortunately or unfortunately Joel Schumacher, depending on who you like. Ask 10-year-old me if Batman Forever was a great movie. I would tell you yes. But no, I didn't know that it was a thing that could possibly happen. Once I saw the previews that it was going to happen, I was like, sure, why not? I like Man of Steel and I like the Nolan Batmans. It seemed to be that, like, started to go in that direction.
Like it was the darker, grittier style versus like the happier, balloons in the air, sunny style of like different types of movies, right? Like Green Lantern was another DC movie, but that tried to be a little funnier. It tried to be a little bit more generic.
I could get past 10 minutes of that movie, Drew.
I actually liked it. I know it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But listen, as people know on the show, we both generally like most things. Like we don't really dump on a lot of things. No. So you're not going to get the negative review from us today if that's what you're waiting for. Yeah. And I think some sites on the internet are doing it. I don't know if it's a clickbait thing. I don't know if it's, something that people are trying to draw ads. We are an ad-free podcast. We have no, horse in this race. Like we're just fans of the genre, fans of the actors, fans of the movie.
Right.
I think you're going to get an unbiased view from us from that standpoint.
So we're going to switch this up a little bit. Usually you take the reins, right?
Yeah.
You usually ask the questions and I answer them and you retort. So I'm just going to throw this one out. You see, this is probably you expected to ask me this question. I'm going to throw it right back at you right now. How does it work as a Man of Steel sequel? Because it really is a direct sequel, right?
So yeah, and I think this is a bigger question, right? So this is a great question. And I think one of the things that people saw after Man of Steel was it was kind of divisive. It had like a 56, I think, on Rotten Tomatoes. And I hate Rotten Tomatoes now because I think like this movie specifically is showing the flaw of that. And we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
But I think the way that it was planned was they were kind of done with Batman. Nolan kind of like got far away from it. They didn't want to change because it did so well with the critics and so well with people that they said, hey, let's try to do the Superman thing.
Right.
And Man of Steel, I just rewatched it and I could do a whole episode on that. I won't get into it too much, but it was very controversial when it came out. People didn't like it or people loved it.
Right.
It wasn't a lot of middle ground. And I was one of those people that really did like it when I saw it in the theater. And I haven't seen it since then until this week. Yeah. And I went and rewatched it. I owned it on the Blu-ray. I didn't even open it. And I wound up opening it. I put it in and I expected to be like, oh, okay, maybe I just liked it more than I should have based on everything that people have been talking about. No, I actually wound up liking it more than the first time I saw it.
Right.
And I don't know what you thought of when you saw it. And I'm apologizing because I'm not really answering your question.
Yeah. Did you just Donald Trump me?
I Donald Trumped you. Believe me. I Donald Trumped you for a second.
And the thing is, I was ready to move on to the next question. You totally got me.
No, what I'll say is about this, and let me actually answer your question.
All right.
I apologize.
You're excited. I can tell.
I'm just really fired up today.
You're
I'm really fired up today. Yeah. What I will say is I think it worked as a sequel. You'll see some things on the internet where some folks will say, I wish they had done a direct sequel. It could have used a direct sequel in between this. And one of the things I'll say spoiler free from this point before we get into the spoiler zone, which we'll give you a heads up on.
Right.
There was a lot of movies within this movie.
Yes.
And that works for some and it doesn't work for others. And I think that's why you're seeing that mixed like 40% on Metacritic as a direct sequel to Man of Steel. I think it does work. but it also could have used a direct sequel without Batman in it, or maybe just Batman and him, and that's it, and not so much the ending that we got in this. And I don't want to get into it too much because we're not in that area yet, but
Right.
I think it worked well personally.
Okay. Quickly now.
That was like a 5-minute answer.
Yes,
Sorry.
Donald Trump. Well, quickly. Question you asked me. I'll bounce it back to you. What did you think of the pairing of Batman and Superman on the same screen? Did it work for you?
As a kid, honestly, that's something you dream about. As a big fan of these two, and I think it did work. I actually like the acting and the casting choices that Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder has made. I'm not like an anti Henry Cavill fan. I think he's good.
Jim Caviezel?
I'm not an anti Jim Caviezel fan.
Well,
I mean,
he was great.
He did play another version of Jesus. So no, it's honestly, and I think Ben Affleck. People said it when it first came out. People were so mad about Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck this, Ben Affleck that.
Batfleck.
He's a great actor. He's a great director. And I think he killed it in this movie.
Well,
he wasn't in it enough.
Well, that in the PR business is what we call a segue.
There you go.
Where does Ben Affleck's Batman performance rank? We got Bale, Clooney, Kilmer, Keaton, and your boy Adam West.
Well, listen, this movie was so dark. This was so dark that I just couldn't stand it. It needed Batman in like longboard shorts surfing. Okay, so I really think that Adam West is the best. No, I'm joking.
The Bat to say.
I'm just joking.
Yeah.
No, I actually think that Ben Affleck gave Christian Bale a run for his money.
Did he now? So Bale was one. Did he get knocked down? I
kind of think it's like a 1A and 1B thing, and then the next guy is 3. And the next guy I would probably say is like Michael Keaton, because I don't think George Clooney was any good at all. And that's not really his fault. And I also don't think that Val Kilmer was that great. I know folks would argue that too.
I like Val Kilmer. Now, in another world, in another movie, don't you think Clooney could pull off Bruce Wayne?
He could, but he's not a good Batman.
He kind of is Bruce Wayne.
He's a pansy, and that's not his fault. Like, he just, I don't know.
Like, there needs to be a stud guy to be Batman, but when he's Bruce Wayne, I feel like he could be good.
Yeah,
so, all right. Give me the quick ranking. So Adam West doesn't count.
No,
Bale, Clooney, Kilmer, Keaton, Affleck. Quick 5, go.
I'm going to say number 1, Bale, because he's been in more, and we've seen more of him.
Seen more. It's kind of like, is LeBron better than Jordan? You say Jordan because LeBron's not done yet.
Exactly. He's not done yet.
He's not done yet. All right.
1 is Bale.
All right.
1A, excuse me. 1B is Affleck, and I thought he killed it.
Ooh, you gave him a 1B.
So, and then I'm going to go number 3, because you got to skip 2, right?
Yeah.
Then I'm going to say Michael Keaton is number 3.
Yeah.
Then I'll say Adam West.
All right. We're not counting Adam West.
All right. Then I'll say
Clooney's better than West. All right.
No, then I'll say Kevin Conroy, the voice actor from the animated series.
Fair enough.
He was awesome. No, I'll say Clooney. I'm sorry, Kilmer, then Clooney.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna go Bale first.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'll go Batfleck 2.
All right.
Kilmer 3.
I thought you were gonna do it.
No, Kilmer 3, Keaton 4, Clooney 5. Hate me if you want. A little overrated on the Keaton. Wasn't a huge fan of him. He's a great actor, but
what, you don't want to get nuts?
Yeah, that's a little. I didn't buy it. I just didn't buy it. I didn't buy it.
He had like the puffy hair.
For 2 movies, I didn't buy it. All right.
He had the puffy hair.
No, I didn't buy him as a billionaire for a second, let alone a crime fighter.
So since I'm gonna have a really hard time not ranting today and talking for 5 minutes at a time,
he's a little fired up, folks.
I'm apologizing, but I'm not apologizing because I'm just fired up.
Yeah.
I got to ask you some questions because otherwise I'm just going to talk for 30 minutes straight.
You're going to ask the guy that knows nothing about Batman about Batman. I love it. Let's do it.
Let me ask you something. So I put this section in the notes. We called it together. We called it perception versus reality.
Yeah.
Do you think that people wanted to hate this movie going in?
You know what? I feel like I kind of do because I kind of had my finger on the pulse of this movie as it was being made, and really from when Ben Affleck was first cast, right?
Yeah.
When it came out that Ben Affleck was going to be Batman in the Zack Snyder movie, it kind of like set the internet aflame, and there was 2 sides to it. It was, oh, he could do it. He's improved since his Daredevil days, and there were other people that saw him as Daredevil and wanted nothing else to do with him, get him out of the superhero genre, which is kind of false to think that way because as we saw, Ryan Reynolds kind of escaped that in the Deadpool.
And Green Lantern, the other Deadpool.
Yeah, from his Green Lantern debacle, if you will. But as I trumped you there.
You didn't answer my question there. Believe me.
Yeah. I kind of feel like a lot of people did. It was kind of like a prove it to me kind of thing, right? And a lot of people seem to rush to judgment before they even saw it, right?
Well, even in the early reviews that I read, and I specifically remember one from Nerdist. It was a review, like a written review on Nerdist. Like the guy, like the headline was, or it was like a tagline of it. It said, well, you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, if you go into the movie thinking that, like, prove it to me.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a bad time.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how you feel about that, but that's kind of what I thought.
It's kind of a backhanded compliment. Yeah.
But let me contrast it, and not to turn it into a Marvel versus DC thing.
Yeah.
But I've seen, and because they've built their track record, right? They deserve kind of the praise that they get.
Yeah.
I think because they've done such a good job.
Sure.
And they put the time in. And maybe the perception is that DC's trying to jump the gun. They're not trying to like invest, right? They're just trying to put it all at once. But one thing that I'll see is like you see some of these other trailers and people are like, I can't wait. This is going to be the best movie ever. And it's like maybe on a teaser or something.
Yeah.
And it's the perception of going into that.
Yeah,
and then
they're ready for it to be good rather than for Batman. They're waiting for it to be bad. People have a certain perception about Zack Snyder, and once they saw that it was of the same tone kind of as Man of Steel, they were ready to jump on top of it. Yeah, the grimdark is the word that comes to mind that is spewed around a lot.
As you said earlier, that's what we call a segue on the Piad.
Yeah, the Piad. We're getting pretty good at this kind of thing.
On the last row, Piad, our next topic is Zack Snyder. Why do you think he has this perception? Like, what about him? And again, I like to look at his movies as an unbiased person. People have this Michael Bay, quote, I'm making air quotes, perception of Zack Snyder. Why is that?
To me, he seems like a fan. Now, we both love the movie Rockstar, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So if you know Rockstar, it's Mark Wahlberg, where he's a fan of this fictional band Steel Dragon.
That's a great movie. You should watch it.
And the lead singer of Steel Dragon quits. Now, Mark Wahlberg is a great singer in the movie, and he and his friends do the tribute band of this band Steel Dragon. So the lead singer quits in the middle of his set, right? And Wahlberg's like on stage. He's right next to the stage.
He's in like the pit.
And like they were like, who's gonna sing the next song? And like they pull him out of the crowd, and he sings the next song, and he kills it. Long story short, he becomes part of the band, right?
Yeah,
that's like dreams come true. That's what he says. Snyder to me seems like a fan whose dream is coming true to do these movies. Does he not?
Well, I mean, he says it, and whether people believe him or not, he does say he is a comic book fan.
Yeah.
If you've read Watchmen, the comic book, one of his other movies that came out,
the comic book.
The graphic novel, the book. Okay. If you've read the graphic novel Watchmen, it's really good, right? So I highly recommend it if you're looking for something to read. Check that out. You watch the movie. The movie is like he shot it so well from a visual standpoint, and that's what people definitely give him the praise on that. They say that his character development and the movies that he makes lack substance, and emotion, I guess. Which I disagree with.
He goes for style over substance.
Right. And I disagree with that. Just on principle. But that movie is a great movie. And if you watch that, I know the ending's a little different than the actual graphic novel. But I really liked that movie. It looked awesome. It was very true to like the actual panels in the comic.
Yeah.
You liked that movie, didn't you?
I loved it. And I knew nothing about Watchmen. And I thought it was great. And the fact that after the fact, I found out that it was so devoted to its source material, it was all the more impressive. And yeah, of course it has a visual flair to it. It's kind of his thing. If you look at a movie like 300, when I saw the theater, like it changed my life. I loved it.
It was awesome.
It was awesome, right? But you could make the argument that, maybe it is a little bit too flashy. I don't really care so much about King Leonidas, but it looks really cool, right? If nothing else.
Yeah.
But then I watched recently, a couple months ago, I caught 300 Rise of Empires or whatever it's called.
That was the sequel.
Which was not directed by Zack Snyder, and that was 300 without any substance. It was all style, and it was still cool. Don't get me wrong, but there was certainly a huge difference between substance between 300 and the sequel, which was not directed by Snyder. So that right there is a great comparison to show you making the same movie, having both versus not having one.
One of the other things before we move on to 300, we always talk about retrospective hate on this show.
Yeah.
That's another movie that gets retrospective hate. When did that become such a crappy movie? I remember that was like life-changing to a lot of people when that
my
came
jaw
out.
was dropped when the credits rolled. I was like, I'd never seen anything like it. It was
awesome, and it looked awesome. The story was cool. It was like so true to the actual comic, the graphic novel.
Yeah.
It was just really cool. And like you said, he is a fan.
Yeah.
And maybe that's bad. Maybe I shouldn't make a Batman movie.
I don't know.
You know what?
He's got obviously has skills.
That's what I mean. Like I
He's not a
can't
hack.
make a Bat.
He's no hack.
Hack Snyder. Hack Snyder. That's his nickname now. Do you think that's deserved?
Not at all. No, not at all. It's I don't know where it comes from, and I'm not the one to answer. I don't know. I think people are being haters. I don't know.
So
I don't. No, he's not my uncle or anything like that. I don't care what he does.
Uncle Zach.
I'll tell you if I think he sucks. I don't know.
I looked at his scores on these movies, and I don't have them handy in my face here, but I was looking at something else recently. We talk about football on this show a lot. I was looking at we're big Eagles fans on the show. They were saying, do the Eagles want to sign Alfred Morris?
Yeah.
And someone like very eloquently like showed his statistics year after year, and they went from 1,500-yard rusher, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then the next year was lower. The next year was lower. The next year was lower.
Yeah.
And now he's signing with Dallas as a backup.
Yeah.
That's my fear for this guy, because if you look at his movies, like Justice League shoots in 2 weeks. I said sharts. Maybe it's going to shart. It shoots in 2 weeks. Do you think they're going to fire him?
Somewhere there's a witty critic tweet with what you just said there.
No.
Yeah, the only way they would fire him or quote unquote delay shooting, which is code for we're going to rethink this thing.
Yeah.
Is if this weekend goes by and the movie just completely bombs at the box office, which is not true, which I saw I think it broke Age of Ultron's record for Thursday pre-release numbers. It made like 30 million or 27 million, I think it was, on Thursday. So that goes to show you that we're on a trend where this is going to be a successful movie.
Dollars-wise.
Yeah, whether or not the critics gave it a good score.
I saw it was set for like 175 is what they're projecting as of 725.
Everything I know about the movie business I learned from Entourage, and I think 175 sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So I don't think Zach has anything to worry about. He can go start shooting Aquaman and all that
There's
crap.
no rolling blackouts right now.
Yeah.
So thinking about his Rotten Tomatoes scores, like Alfred Morris's rushing career,
yeah,
I just start to see some flaws with this system.
Oh,
and maybe we should stop using it on the show. I don't know.
Yeah, I would lead the charge if you want to just delete Rotten Tomatoes from our. So we use them. We reference it to just at the beginning to show you how the critics liked our movie when we do a movie. I'd be fine with kicking that and using Metacritic or even just nothing at all.
I think Metacritic is a better way to do it from an actual standpoint.
So are we going to hereby take a stand and no longer mention the words rotten and tomatoes combined in the same sentence?
See, people are going to think that I'm butthurt about it, and now I'm like,
I think you're a little butthurt about it.
I am a little bit.
I mean, you're allowed to be scored,
I'm not telling you this is the greatest movie ever. I won't ever claim that that's true.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that it's not a 30%.
Yeah, it shows you that there's a flaw, right?
This movie is not worse than Entourage at 33%.
So Entourage is 30%, and right now this is at 29.
It was 29. It jumped back up to 30.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, right? That goes to show you that there's something wrong with the system.
The first Hulk movie
with Eric Bana
was a 61%, and I remember that was critically hated. The users hated that, so the user score for that was 29.
Yeah,
like the first Fantastic Four. Let me tell you, what do you think that got?
First Fantastic Four, I would give it like a 14%.
It got a 27. 3 points lower than this.
So this Batman vs Superman is pretty much on par with that movie in Rotten Tomatoes world.
What do you think Batman Forever got?
Batman Forever probably in the 20s.
41%. User score 33.
So by this logic, Batman Forever is better than this. No, see, that's enough. Say no more. We're done with this. We're done with this, right? And I know what the flaw is, right? So not every critic writes their article with the same system in place. Some use 1 out of 10, some use 1 out of 5, 4-star system, A, B, C, D, F, right?
Yeah.
So how do you call it rotten? How do you call it fresh? Like what? Like how do you say that, right?
We used the Entourage joke before, but do you think something like this could torpedo a movie? Like Rainn Wilson torpedoing Aquaman at Comic-Con.
I will tell you that it can torpedo Aquaman because nobody gives a shit about Aquaman, all right? I don't care if Khal Drogo's playing him. I don't care if Vinny Chase is playing him. But for a movie like Batman, Superman, or Batman v Superman combined, the characters are already well known and established. So I feel like a couple of nerds writing on their blogs saying this movie sucks because the color palette is too dark is not going to affect box office numbers that greatly. But I think we've already spent too much time saying the words rotten and or tomatoes, not just in this episode, but in previous podcasts where we use them to rank our movies. We're setting it through. It's getting the boot. We're gonna go Metacritic.
Metacritic.
All right.
They took a jump.
We're done.
So before we move on from this topic, I want to leave you with one review here. Just that it stood out to me.
Really got you.
This is the type of thing that people are writing, and it's like I said this to you before. It's in the age of internet advertising, people are trying to out clickbait each other.
Right.
So it's like once the negative reviews started rolling in, it was like, how can I make this more dramatic than the last guy?
How can my blurb be more inflammatory than the last guy's blurb?
Maybe they didn't like the movie, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's like the language of these just gets more bombastic and ridiculous as we go. So let me read this to you. So this is a quote. This comes to you from some joker at some joke blog, read by some joker at some joke podcast called The Last Row. This is I don't matter.
Yeah.
I don't know if this matters either, but here's what it says. Quote, one of the worst superhero movies ever made. It is worse than Batman and Robin.
Whoa.
Which is not true because Batman and Robin got an 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, in his mind.
It is worse than Catwoman.
Whoa.
That is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It is worse than last summer's Fantastic Four.
Whoa. Michael B. Jordan.
Don't know because I never saw it, even though Vince Howard was in it. A lugubrious experience. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. A lugubrious experience that squanders every ounce of promise. How do you feel it stacks up against those movies, Badway?
Well, this is the problem with the website that shall not be named to judge movies anymore, is they give some joker from Aisle Seat, some blog called Aisle Seat, what is it? What do they call it?
It's like a certified reviewer.
Certified reviewer, right?
Can we get certified?
We should get certified.
We just denounced them, though. We were not allowed.
No, well, we can infiltrate the system from the inside and make it better. All right?
It's a positive force for change.
Yes. To further push up the scores of movies like Entourage and Batman v Superman. But no, that right there goes to show you it's just hyperbole on top of hyperbole. Oh, this movie's so bad it's worse than Fantastic Four. No, it's not. This movie's so bad it's worse than Catwoman. No, it's not. No chance in hell. No way. No how.
There was another one that said that the movie didn't have any fun and it's not funny. We talked a little bit. There's some jokes.
There's a little bit of humor in there, of course.
It's not like a comedy.
It's not. I wasn't crying. It wasn't somber. It wasn't all somber.
Look at Ant-Man. Ant-Man is like a comedy. It's a straight up comedy, right?
Not Paul Rudd.
I haven't seen it. Paul Rudd is a comedic actor.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck is not a comedian.
Robert Downey Jr. is a funny guy. It's the way it is.
I don't want to be the apologist, so I'm just going to leave my personal opinions out of it. I'm totally fine with people not liking it.
Yeah, the bottom line is, people knock this movie for being too grim, too somber. Well, I'll tell you what, being Batman sucks, all right? And being Superman freaking sucks. You don't want to be Superman. He is Superman. He has to be. And Batman is just a lunatic. His parents died and just has that chip on his shoulder his entire life. It sucks to be him. It sucks to be you, dude. So when you got those two guys who just have a shit card handed to them, it's going to be a somber mood. I'm sorry.
Before we move on to our spoiler section here, this is the last thing I'm going to say. Okay. I promise I will shut up now.
For the whole podcast, it's going to be me?
Just going to be you talking for the rest.
Right, so it'll be like 5 minutes.
You're going to be
done.
solo. Okay. No, what I will say for the people that have not seen it yet, before you turn this off, if you're listening, hopefully you come back to the second half after you've seen it. What I will tell you is, it is not worse than those movies. It's definitely not.
That's your plea to America?
It's not better than
in the world.
I'll be straight up. It's not better than the Nolan movies.
Yeah.
I'll just be straight. It's not better than the Nolan movies.
Shoot them straight.
The Dark Knight is still, I think, the best superhero movie that's been out there.
Right.
It's my favorite personally. Okay. I think Batman Begins is probably better. I think The Dark Knight Rises is probably on par with it, actually.
I would agree with that.
But I don't think that those movies are better than this. And now I'm going to shut up.
So that right there was your spoiler-free zone of Batman v Superman : Dawn of Justice. If you don't want to hear spoilers, then stop listening in 3, 2, 1. Batman dies. Just kidding. All right. But seriously. Now we're going to start the spoiler edition. So turn this podcast off now.
This is your last warning.
This is your last warning. Okay. So what was your most memorable performance of the entire cast? We got Henry Cavill, we got Ben Affleck, Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
Gal Gadot.
I don't know how to say her name. Godot, the girl from Fast and Furious.
Hans chick.
Yeah, and Jeremy Irons as Alfred.
I think it's probably a tie between
Who did you like?
Affleck and Irons. I thought.
Yeah. You like the duo? Good duo?
Dude, I loved Jeremy Irons as Alfred. I feel like I wish he was in it more.
Yeah.
He was great. What's yours?
No, he definitely was. I thought Affleck did a great job of especially being Bruce Wayne, not so much Batman. I mean, he was good as Batman, don't get me wrong. But as Bruce Wayne in particular, I thought he was a great Bruce Wayne, and I would have loved to see more of him inside that character, and I'm sure we will see it if this Justice League movie gets made.
It comes down to what you said, though. It's like there was so much of everybody that there wasn't a lot of anybody.
Yeah. And
if that makes sense.
It does. And I also really enjoyed Jesse Eisenberg. He was like unhinged in this movie. He really threw himself out there. And thing is, I feel like Jesse Eisenberg is very polarizing person. Character. He's the way he has really his one style, and you either like him or you don't like him. And I happen to like him, and I thought he was really good in this movie. You likened him to kind of a Riddler type in this movie, more so than a cerebral genius as Lex Luthor usually is. And I would agree with that sentiment, but I still enjoyed it because I thought he really threw himself into the character.
Yeah, and I don't think he was bad by any means. I thought I read this in one of the reviews, like, he saw it and he went for it, and he like put himself out there.
Yeah.
And I think he definitely came across as like a Batman Forever Jim Carrey Riddler.
Yeah, he almost tried to steal the show.
I thought he would have been pretty good as the Riddler
or
something like that, maybe just a different type of character.
Uh-huh.
But he wasn't actually Lex Luthor. If you paid attention to the movie, you hear that he is his son.
His son.
He's different.
Alexander Luthor.
Different character. And you know what? It's a different take on the character. It's like people grow up and they get so mad at like things changing. It's like you can't hold on to what it was. I'm specifically thinking about an article I read on Polygon where they were mad like, this is the character I grew up with. This is my Superman, and you changed it. It's like,
please.
I'm not of that mentality. Maybe some other people like don't want it to change. But I just think that that's kind of unrealistic when you think about movies being made. Something changes all the time.
I got something to say. Grow up, right?
Yeah.
Grow up.
I think
things change.
One of the lines in the thing was, Superman gets his powers from the field, not from the sun.
Yeah.
Because his dad told him that. And that's fine.
Your dad's stupid. No.
It's just
stop it.
It's dumb to me to like hang on to that. And there's definitely nostalgia associated with this type of stuff growing up.
Right.
There definitely is. But I just don't hold on to it that way.
And you know what? That's great. And a new movie should not diminish your old feelings. They're there. That's why you can go watch that movie if you want to see it. You know?
Maybe I'm being a hypocrite. Like, is this me being mad that they remade Karate Kid? I'll be honest.
No, because as we said in our last on-demand episode, you're allowed to reboot superhero movies as many times as you want. You're allowed to.
I just want to be fair because I don't want to be the guy that's like calling poo-poo on everybody else. Keep me honest here. Keep me honest.
In the superhero realm, you're allowed to reboot as many times as you want. So no ifs, ands, or buts. No worries. Before we get off of actors, I also thought Lawrence Fishburne was pretty funny as Perry White.
Morpheus?
Yeah, Morpheus himself. As Perry White. I don't know who Perry White is in the comic lore. He's just the editor of the Daily Planet.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought he was great.
He was good. He was one of the better performances, I think.
Yeah, and he was a little bit of that levity in an otherwise dark movie. A lot of like the subtle humor came from his character. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, right? Let's do 3 things, right? 3 things you liked and 3 things you didn't like about Batman v Superman. Go.
Oh man.
Let's just start with the like. We'll do the dislike separate.
It's going to be tough, but I'll tell you. So just off the top of my head, 3 things that I like without getting into too much. I really like Ben Affleck. Yeah. I thought he was a good surprise, especially for the people that were very like cautious about him.
Yes, it's hard to trust again.
I thought
when you get Daredeviled.
I don't know if this counts as a 1A and 1B, but I really like Jeremy Irons, as I said. Yeah. I thought he was awesome as Alfred, and I liked the relationship that they had.
You want a buddy film with Jeremy Irons and Ben Affleck in the future.
Dude, I would love to see a standalone Batman film with Ben Affleck in it. I just think it would be awesome.
Well, the way they make these movies in probably like 2026, you're going to see it. So get ready.
Yeah. No, I thought he was great. The second thing I would say, I thought the acting was good. Despite what most of the reviews are saying, I thought the acting was really good.
It was, totally.
The performances were really good from everybody all around. And then the third thing that I liked personally was I liked how they tried to as much as you can ground some of these things in reality. Like they
Yeah.
answer more of the philosophical questions like, why do we need a Superman? Do we need a Superman?
Yeah.
You know, the things like this guy can basically blow up anybody he wants. What is that like? Like he has a hard time. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders.
And
Some people don't like that.
And you know what? Off that line, do we need a Superman? What if he wants to blow up the world? I thought it was a very interesting line that Ben Affleck or Bruce Wayne had in this movie where he said 20 years in Gotham City and it is enough to turn anybody crazy. We've seen our share of psychos. So as Ben Affleck doesn't know much about Superman, he knows that there's a chance. And as the famous line, if there's a 1% chance that he can turn bad, we have to treat it like a certainty.
Yeah.
That's almost like a very, very parody-friendly line.
So what are 3 things that you liked about this movie?
I really liked the acting, like you said. The acting was superb, I thought. I didn't think there were any weak spots, and I thought the casting was really, really on point. I like the inclusion of Wonder Woman. I know it was a point of contention for a lot of people. People are a little worried about it as a throw-in. I didn't think it was a throw-in. At the same time, it wasn't that central to the it was central to the plot, but it didn't get in the way.
I thought the way that they put her in, they interwove her into the story, and then she kind of disappeared, and then she jumped back in the end.
Yeah.
Like, so I thought that was cool.
It wasn't just an add-on, but at the same time, there was a lot going on in this movie, and time was of the essence because you only have 2.5 hours. But they did a really good job of making her effective, but also kind of letting her do her own thing, setting up possibly a full-length Wonder Woman feature in the future. Also, aesthetically, I thought the movie looked great. There were a lot of CG moments where you couldn't really tell what was CG, what wasn't. Including maybe some of the scenes where the Batmobile was crashing through some things. And the Batmobile looked pretty badass too, right?
That was, I don't know if we could do a quick ranking, but where does that rank in your favorite Batmobiles?
It's up there.
It was pretty awesome looking. Yeah.
I'm a fan of the Tumbler because it's something different and it just seems to like to just beast mode everyone. I like the first one from the Tim Burton days.
Yeah, that was cool.
I'm a fan of that. Not so much the Joel Schumacher ones.
The one where he had like a cockpit. It was like open.
That was pretty lame, wasn't it?
That was the Batman.
That was pretty lame.
The Batman and Robin one. It was like it didn't like. Did he get like bugs in his face because he didn't even have like a windshield?
Yeah.
I like the animated series one. I know it's sitting on the floor right next to your foot here.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at that. I have like the full scale replica. I like that one, but this one was cool because it was kind of like a mashup of the Tumbler. It had the ruggedness of the Tumbler, and it also had kind of like the sleekness of some of the other ones.
Yeah. And I don't know if I already said 3 or not. I kind of lumped a bunch into one thing, aesthetics. But I also like you talked about humanizing the characters. I also liked. I'm a fan of the serious nature of the movie. About kind of it seems more weighty than if you want to compare it to Marvel.
Like the moral questions.
Yes, yeah. It seems more. I don't know. It seemed more urgent, as far as mankind.
Like
whereas
the heaviness.
Yeah. Whereas the Avengers. There's a threat on the world, but it didn't seem as dire or questionable, if you will, because there's still a question of whether or not Superman is good for us, right? And I thought that kind of question is a lot better than the other ones.
It was an interesting angle to take. Yeah. And the one thing I will say, people forget, did you see who executive producer was?
I did not catch
Christopher Nolan.
Okay.
And so I don't know if people remember this, but back, we talked a little bit in the beginning of the show when the first Superman, news came out. Hey, they're making something. It's Man of Steel.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, Christopher Nolan wants to help out, but he doesn't really want to do the movie because he's had enough of superhero genres. He's going to move on." He did a few other movies. He was working on Inception, probably, or I'm sorry, not Inception, Interstellar at the time.
Interstellar, yeah.
He did a lot of heavy research for that.
Right.
The one thing that I do remember was they were saying, like, how can we make it grounded in reality, right?
Yes.
And that was a thing that people loved about The Dark Knight. They loved that.
Yeah.
And how can you ground an alien guy that can fly around and heal and is bulletproof?
Right.
I thought they took an interesting take on it. Now, that upset some people. I thought it was cool. A cool way to do it.
Again, grow up.
It's different.
It's something different. It might not be for you. That's fine, but don't cry about it, right?
So what are 3 things that you didn't like, if you have 3?
Well, dislikes. I didn't like. Now, this is my. I've talked about this in the past. I don't like the mashing of the entire DC world, Justice League. They did throw the Justice League. They set up a Justice League movie very subtly in the middle of the movie, which I felt they could have maybe done that like as a closing credit. It seemed like a closing credit sequence in the middle of the movie with Wonder Woman and all that. Not Wonder Woman, her character, but with looking it up and everything. But I didn't like that, and onto that, which is kind of a catch-22 because the whole Batman versus Superman thing. You alluded to this earlier that there are a lot of stories to tell in this movie. There's not enough time. There just isn't enough time.
Yeah.
I wanted to see more of the question of morality with Superman. I wanted to see more of interactions between Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent.
Yeah.
We only really got the one, and it's fairly early in the movie. I wanted to see more of that. That's one of my dislikes. Second dislike would be one of the parts of the trailer. A lot of their confrontations in the trailer turns out to actually be a dream sequence, as we find out in the movie. And I think that's kind of a cheap way to advertise the movie, and also to look forward to. And maybe looking back on it, maybe it's fairly obvious that his dream sequence in the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it as one, but I could see if you weren't a casual fan, if you were a casual fan, I could see how you might think that it wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't know any better, and to me, it kind of painted Superman as kind of a villain in the trailer.
Yeah,
not so much a villain, but maybe a villainous tendencies. Not that he's going to go blow people up or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a downer for me. And leading into that, also the fight scenes in particular, I thought the fight scenes were amazing, and I would have also liked to put that on my likes.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say there were too many of them because there weren't. But I liked the political aspect of this movie so much, I wanted to see more of that.
Yeah.
So if we could dial back the fight scenes a little bit to get more of that, excluding the final 20 minutes against Doomsday and all that with Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
That was amazing, right? That was freaking awesome.
So I would have added that to my likes, but it's a good segue. That's on my list of dislikes, not the fight. But I don't know, and I don't think this is really a dislike, but if there's any way that I critique it, I felt like Doomsday, I don't know, I think it comes back to there was so much in the movie.
Yeah.
And before I give it my final score at the end of the show, I think it was so hard to shoehorn everything in. So Doomsday kind of was like, oh yeah, here's this bad guy.
Yeah.
You got to fight this bad guy who's like pretty damn impossible. And I think what they're doing is they're setting it up for the Justice League movie, which obviously is going to have Darkseid in it, I think, based on the imagery and, what they're alluding at, especially, Eisenberg at the end when he's like, he knows the noise went into the stars.
Ding dong.
He was going nuts, right?
Yeah.
So that was cool, but I also feel like Doomsday kind of felt like a throwaway character. Like, they just got to fight somebody.
Yeah, it was almost, it wasn't a final boss, right?
Yeah.
It was a level boss.
Yeah, it was a level boss, right?
Yeah.
The final boss is in the next movie.
It was a hell of a level boss.
Yeah.
Sometimes the level boss is harder than the final boss.
He's kind of like when you're fighting, is it Mortal Kombat? I'm thinking 2. When you have to fight, like, is it Motaro?
Motaro, yeah.
Like, he can be kind of cheap.
Yeah.
But, like, Shao Kahn is, like, he's really the big boss, right? He's the final boss.
Yeah.
But, like, Motaro sometimes can be cheap, or even, like, Goro was cheap in Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah.
Like, it depends on what game you're talking about. But I see what you're saying. So I don't think he was bad or anything. If there was any type of complaint, and it's not even really a complaint, it's the nature of having to do all this stuff in one movie.
Well, for me as a person who doesn't really know who Doomsday is other than playing the Injustice video game, I thought he was fine. Like, I thought it was he
was cool.
It was a formidable final boss for the movie, for sure. I don't know any of his backstory, so to me, as like this hulking monster that seems unbeatable, it was pretty freaking awesome.
One of the other, so my second dislike was that I wish there was more of the dream sequence, because I think it was really cool, personally. And I just felt like it, and we're going to talk about this in a second, what was cut from the movie. We don't know.
Right.
Because there is a 30-minute, like, hunk of footage that got cut from this movie that is going to be putting into the Ultimate Edition, which is what Zack Snyder was saying. I don't know if that got cut.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really cool. And it reminded me, you mentioned it, the Injustice video game. It reminded me exactly of it.
Okay.
So I think I said this to you and our friend Jeremy after the movie in the theater. I felt like there was so many different, like, literal comic storylines in this movie. They didn't know kind of which one. There was like the death of Superman type stuff. There was the Doomsday stuff. There was the thread with Injustice. There was this thread with Batman, beating the shit out of everybody. It was kind of all over the place from that standpoint. So I don't know. I like the Injustice storyline. I think it's cool. The game, the comics, that was kind of cool.
Two things I wanted to pull before you go on to your last dislike that you were just talking about. One thing I really liked about Batman being older, it seemed like he was just sick of it. He was sick. He was sick of everyone's shit. All right,
DGAF.
Yeah, he was pounding people like he was just so annoyed with crime and the world, and I'm just gonna take it out in your face. branding people. He was done with it. And yeah, there were a few casualties, but it's self-defense, baby.
He wasn't wielding weapons. Like he didn't have guns in his belt, and he wasn't shooting people in the face. Like yeah, there was, and that's a big thing. So people are very upset that Batman, quote unquote, killed people.
He killed a man.
If you're a purist, yeah, I could see why you're upset, but
it was self-defense. It was him or them. Right?
I mean, it was cool, and to piggyback on your point, this was some of the best live action Batman footage I've ever seen in any movie.
Yeah.
His costume looked awesome. He was kicking the shit out of people.
He looked hulking. Like he looked like, a lot of times Batman, he kind of looks slim a little bit. Like he looked like, I don't know it was the suit, but he looked like a tough guy. He almost looked like a wrestler.
If you compare it to the Dark Knight, the second suit, right? Not the first one, the one where he had like the pieces of armor. If they tried to make it really sleek, make him move around. Right. This one, he was huge.
Yeah.
And was awesome when he was beating people up. And it reminded me so much of the Arkham series video games. I'm pretty sure he did a wall takedown. He pulled a guy through a wall at one point. He had the gadgets that he shot on the guns that disabled the guns.
Yes.
But he had all the power-ups because he wasn't able to only use it 3 times.
Did you catch the rock bottom?
Yeah, he
rock bottomed some poor guy.
The guy's head went through the floor.
So he was in DGAF mode this entire movie, and I loved it.
That was awesome.
And you talked about dream sequences real quick. I thought it was kind of lame, where I later found out it was the Flash. I didn't know. There was this dream sequence where there was some guy in a tornado with a stupid hat on and a beard. And he's like, it's Lois. You saw the movie, is the spoiler section. You know what I'm talking about. I thought that was so lame. Maybe it's a throwback to a comic line or something, or I just thought it was I terrible.
Only seeing it, I'm like 99% sure that was the Flash. I can't say for 100% certainty because I haven't really looked anything up. We recorded this right after we watched it.
Yeah.
What I can say is, he's been known to travel through time and universes.
That makes sense.
So that could happen.
He's a fast
but I
dude.
think it was interesting, put it that way.
Yeah, way to put it nicely.
I don't think it was bad. But
it was cringeworthy for me, just for me.
I could see people being upset because it's like, hey, you're just trying to throw all these people in here. And yeah, it's a valid argument. I can't argue it. I didn't mind it, but I could see people being upset.
The silver lining to that is, it was a dream sequence off of a dream sequence.
Yeah.
It was the double fake out.
Inception, man.
I love it. I love the double fake out.
He went Inception.
Like, what's that movie? With Breckenmeyer and Tom Green?
Road Trip.
They do that a lot, the double fake out, the double dream
fake out.
sequence. You don't know when it's coming. But yeah. Did you have any more dislikes? I think you're due for one more, or are you done?
I could say one more. It's not really a dislike. It's just, I don't know if Eisenberg's portrayal of Luthor was like my favorite, but it wasn't bad. I thought he was good. He was a good actor, but I guess if maybe they could have cast it differently or do something, he would have been better, I think, as like the Mad Hatter or like the Riddler, because I think that type of over the top performance.
Be a good Riddler.
I think he would have been really good as that.
Not a good Joker though. No, definitely not.
He would have been not a good Joker, but I could see him as a Riddler or like maybe a Mad Hatter type character. I'm not upset about it. I don't think he's bad.
As you said, he's the son of Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
So, I didn't really know Lex Luthor had a son. So he's allowed to be any kind of character he wants. There's no source material. Well, I'm sure there's source material, but if you're thinking of Lex Luthor, I think of Lex Luthor as some like almost boring, very deliberate kind of genius.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, different style of character. That's all.
Right. So talk about the movie having about a half hour worth of cuts. What do you think they cut? I have no idea.
My guess is that what they said was they cut some violence. They cut some scenes. Some people saw this thing where Jenna Malone was supposedly casted as Barbara Gordon. So in the comics, there's a very famous story.
Who's Barbara Gordon? Is that Commissioner Gordon's daughter?
Gordon's daughter.
Okay.
There's a very famous comic storyline called The Killing Joke where the Joker shoots her and paralyzes her.
Okay.
So,
I've heard of that story, yeah.
So they're making an actual animated film of that.
Yeah.
The Bruce Timm and Paul Dini and all them. It's going to be awesome. It's pretty brutal. I mean, he shoots her in the spine and she's paralyzed and she turns into Oracle. The other thought would be that Jason Todd comes back as Red Hood. So maybe that's another storyline they could go with. But maybe I would suspect either him killing Robin, but I didn't see Jared Leto filming for this. No. I didn't know about that. My guess is dream sequence or maybe some more violence.
You sound like you know what you're talking about. I dig it.
Do you think it would be better? Like, because people had complained there was too many cuts. The cuts were weird. They went from place to place.
Yeah.
I didn't think so.
No, I wasn't lost at all. It was a very simple story to follow, I felt.
Like, people were saying they went from one place to another without explanation, but to me it seemed like juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Like, hey, they're talking about the Senate hearing, and then the next scene shows something else. Like, maybe I need to watch it again to see how odd it is.
I thought it was fine, and I thought that the running time was perfect. I like long movies. 2.5 is right around the sweet spot. Nothing too much longer than that. 3 is too long, so I thought it was perfect.
So did you think that the Justice League tie-ins? I mean, they didn't cut that. Right? You mentioned that it might have been better as a post-credit scene, which people were waiting for, and there wasn't any. If you're listening to this, you should know that, right?
Yeah.
Do you think they were forced, or did you like how they did it?
I don't think it was forced, but I thought it was a little cheesy. Yeah. But that might just be me hating Aquaman, because Aquaman was really lame. Totally lame.
I love Jason Momoa. I think he's going to be a good Aquaman. But I thought the way that they did
he's not going to be speaking Dothraki in this movie.
It was really funny because they like open up the ship. If you've seen this, they open up the ship and he just kind of like he shows his face and he's like floating around in the water with his beautiful hair in the thing, and he like looks at him weird. Because I mean, we've thought about it. Like, how does an Aquaman movie work? How do you shoot a movie with a guy in the ocean? I don't know.
I don't know. There's a lot of CG, and it's why I questioned how good Vincent Chase's Aquaman really was, because CG back then as well, like how good could it possibly be? They got to get him out of that water, Drew. They have to please get him out of this water.
The only thing I would say about these tie-ins is that it was an interesting way to do it. Wonder Woman is looking for this computer file. Lex Luthor's been keeping files on everybody. Some people hated it.
Yeah.
I thought if you're going to try to shoehorn everybody in, it was maybe a creative way to do it without making it more forced. But some people said it was forced.
Yeah, it was. To me, it seemed like I said before, an after credits sequence Easter egg in the middle of the movie, but it didn't take away from the movie. It was like 30 seconds max, and it was done, and it was fine. All right, so in wrapping up the actual meat and potatoes of the movie, did the Batman versus Superman fight satisfy you?
I thought it was really cool, and I'm going to have to try to slow down because I'm getting excited about this as we speak.
How did you like the suit? Batman's suit.
I thought it was awesome. I got to tell you, like, seeing the trailer, everyone said you've seen everything.
Yeah.
You had, but I felt like the scenes were actually a little shorter than I expected. Like the Batman fight, I didn't really know why they were fighting. Like, you knew what they did in the comic.
Yeah.
But I think in the movie...
Well, Lex set it up.
Yeah, he was messing with them the whole time. They made it seem like it was the Joker. It wasn't. It was Lex Luthor messing with Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
You know, he was just toying with them the whole time. He wanted them to kill each other.
Yeah.
But getting to the fight, like you said earlier, was one of the best fights I've seen in a movie. It was pretty awesome. It was short, but it was pretty brutal, man. Like,
it was.
When Batman was like about to kill him, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't see it getting, like, I heard it was dark, right?
Right.
Like, when you hear dark, you have a thought.
Uh-huh.
What did you think? Were you like cringing? Did you think like, man, is he really going to do this?
No, I just thought it was one of the most exciting fight sequences I've seen in a long time. That's the strength of this movie is that scene and the final scene with Doomsday versus the three of them. It helps speed up the action that was kind of lacking in the first half of the movie, I guess. Which for me, it didn't matter so much because I like the political aspect of the movie. But those final two fight scenes, really, really hammered home the awesome action. And like we were talking about Zack Snyder, his visual style was just like on full blast. Especially in those two scenes.
I love that it was raining and it was night. It looked awesome with the lights of Batman's eyes, and the suit was pretty cool. It looked like the comics. I thought that was awesome. And the whole kryptonite aspect, like, kryptonite's usually pretty lame. It's like, oh, get this rock, get it away from me. Ew.
Yeah.
You know, but Batman made some awesome like traps with it. He had like a grenade at one point with like a gas grenade.
Yeah, I like the gas grenade thing.
That was pretty cool. And the way that they used it was pretty awesome.
So they're done fighting. Batman was going to kill him with a kryptonite spear.
That was pretty badass too.
Decided not to use it, throws it away. So this to me was back to our 24 roots. This was the Kim Bauer plot point of the year.
Oh, God.
Where they throw the kryptonite spear away, and Lois Lane, thinking she's going to help, picks up the spear and throws it down this pool of water. Where was it?
It was like, it was in the same room. It was like this docks.
It was like, so she goes and throws it. So she thinks she's going to get rid of it. So Superman, like, it'll be away, right?
The Kim Bauer cougar.
So it turns out 10 minutes later, they need it again to kill Doomsday, right? So she goes down there. She has to go fish it out because she thinks she's helping, right? Gets stuck underneath some freaking concrete. She's going to drown. Has to pull Superman away from the fight. This big monster's going to kill everyone, but Superman has to stop what he's doing to go help poor Lois, right?
Yeah.
It's just, I thought it was so lame how she threw it away and then needed it in like a span of 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was pretty stupid.
Yeah.
But I thought the spear itself was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, the spear itself was great. So obviously at the end, Superman basically sacrifices himself.
I didn't think they were going to do it.
To kill both him and Doomsday.
I didn't think they were going to do it.
I did because I'm a fool for reading some reviews. See, Reviewer 101 states that you don't give away the plot of the movie, especially the ending. This jagoff from the Washington Post, I don't know who it was. We have a friend that works there. He didn't write this. They wrote in the first sentence of the review, oh, well, it's kind of fitting that the movie starts with a funeral and ends with a funeral. And I read that it was the first line.
So you knew someone was
was going to die at the end, and I was like, it's going to be Superman. Of course it's going to be Superman. So, of course, Superman dies, sacrifices himself, kills Doomsday and himself. How did you feel? What were your emotions when Superman was dead?
I was feeling a little emotional when he was getting his ass kicked by Batman, and I love Batman, don't get me wrong. But I saw a spoiler myself, and I saw, oh yeah, they kill Superman. I was like, they're not gonna do it. Or like, I thought when they nuked him, that's when he died.
Oh yeah. I think it was too early.
Because if you remember, they nuked him in space.
Yeah.
The president ordered the nuke strike, Doomsday, like, and people were mad too about, oh, they destroyed the city, so they try to fly him to space. Like, they made a point, right?
Yeah.
But they were fighting in space, and if maybe the government didn't do that, Superman would have flown him to another planet or thrown him in the sun. Right. I don't know, something. But I was a little emotional when it happened. But he's not dead. He's coming back for the next one.
I know you almost cried when you thought Batman died at the end of Dark Knight Rises. So I did. I was trying to look over to see if I saw any tears.
No, I was a wreck at the end of that because that was the end of the era. They got the statue up.
He could have died at the end of that movie.
He could have died.
You were taken aback, and then you saw him in the rest of it. You're like,
I still stand by the fact that at the end of that, they should have just shown Alfred. They shouldn't have shown him and let it up to you.
Leave it open-ended.
No, but I got emotional about it. It was. I didn't think they would go there, but they did. And that's another storyline that they put in, right? So it's interesting where they're going.
Yeah. So they put him in the casket, and at right before the credits cut, the dirt moves.
Yeah.
So he's not dead. I guess you can't kill Superman. Does he just need to rest? He's sleeping off.
He got drunk.
Does he sleep off the kryptonite like a hangover?
He had a bender.
Is that what he do? Do you need water and greasy food?
He had a bender. Yeah. He needs some McDonald's.
Get that man some McDonald's.
Soak up all that alcohol, and he'll be good.
McDonald's might not be enough. Maybe you gotta take him to Five Guys. I don't know.
He needs the Five Guys.
Yeah.
So the movie ends with a funeral.
Yeah.
The movie was a little dark.
Totally dark.
Most people on the internet wanted it to be a light and campy type movie, which I don't think anybody thought it was going to be going in. What do you think of this as serious and dark versus happy and light? Do you think it worked better? Would it have been better to you if it was campy?
Absolutely not. You can't make it campy. But I thought there were some opportunities where you could have sprinkled a few more jokes in there. We talk about Batman and or Bruce Wayne and Alfred, and their interactions are always pretty humorous. Alfred's always a funny guy, whether he's the old man in
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine, yes.
Carrying the drunk girl to the car.
Yes. Well, I'm thinking before that. I wouldn't call Michael Caine the old man. Who's the guy from Batman Forever? And Batman and Robin. What's his name?
That old guy?
The old dude, the old Alfred, like the old Alfred.
Oh, I didn't like that guy.
Well, he sucks. He didn't suck, but anyway.
He had some type of cancer or whatever that they needed Mr. Freeze's technology for.
Yeah, Batgirl's father? No, her uncle?
Her uncle.
Her uncle, whatever.
Uncle Alfred.
Uncle Alfie. Remember they tried to hack the password? She tried to find the password, and she put like her name in, and it worked. Like,
can you believe? Listen, that guy that we read before said that was a better movie than this.
So she put like her name in there, or like his long lost love's name, and like all the secrets of Batman came rolling out.
That's the equivalent of making your password.
Yeah, it's like all of Batman's secrets start flying at her from the screen. If the movie was 3D, the words would become flying at you. The bat symbol, But I digress. I'm getting off topic. One funny thing that if I were a writer, I would put in there. They show a scene and they kind of hint at this, where they show Alfred fixing the Batmobile. Like he's got the wrench on there. He's got dirt on his hands. He's fixing the Batmobile. Not maybe 20 minutes later, Batman takes the Batmobile out and proceeds to just like junk the shit. He rams into Superman. It gets dented. It gets banged. It goes through a ship. It does all sorts of things. Up. They show him driving back to the Batcave, and the thing's like sparking everywhere. It's completely busted. After Alfred spent his hard time fixing this thing. Now, how many times in a given year does Batman screw up the Batmobile after Alfred fixes it? Like every time?
I thought he was just changing the oil or doing the timing belt. You know,
so he should have yelled at him, "Hey man, I just fixed this thing. Why'd you go and break it right away?"
I didn't think he was gonna drive it home. That thing was so
it
beat
was
to
so
shit.
beat up. So I feel like every time he drives the Batmobile out of the Batcave, he's gonna bust it up. He's gonna wreck it.
They probably could have made it funnier too, like when he was driving it. Like it could have been like really rickety up, you know?
So Alfred doesn't have time to fix this freaking car every time Batman just digs it up. They need to hire some contractor or something to help him fix the truck. I don't. There's no way to do it. Maybe you blindfold the guy. A guy really knows what he's doing. I don't know. But I thought he should have yelled at him for busting up the Batmobile yet again.
I got one, and maybe it's in the director's cut.
Yeah.
This movie needed a sex scene. Maybe it's in that, we saw them in the bathtub.
Yeah.
We saw them in the bathtub.
Where did that go? He took the glasses off.
Yeah.
That means like he's going to turn into Superman, if you know what I mean.
Have you ever been in a bathtub with your clothes on? That is very uncomfortable.
I have jumped in a pool with my clothes on.
You know how they shoot like certain movies with clothes on and then without?
Yeah.
Maybe he was full on, ass
director's
out,
cut.
naked in the director's cut.
Yeah.
That's what is in the ultimate
That's like
cut.
they make a porno and then they make the Skinemax version of it. They dual make it.
At
they
the
double
same time.
make it. Yeah.
It's like the two birds with one stone
Yes.
effect.
Yes.
But I think this movie could have used a sex scene. I'm just kidding. I don't think it cares.
I think the sparks were flying there between Bruce Wayne and Wonder Woman there, right?
Oh, he definitely
he dug her. I don't know if she dug him, but he definitely dug her.
What did she say? He said, "Oh, I've known a few women like you." She's like, "I don't think you've ever known a woman like me."
He was like, "Ooh."
He loved that. It's the intrigue, man.
Yeah.
She followed him down into the server room.
He needs a strong woman that could kick his ass, right?
He took her to Tech 2.
Yeah.
Like in 24 days.
2. Yeah.
I'll meet you in Tech 2.
Yeah. Bruce Wayne keeps up appearances by dating bimbos and floozies.
Yeah.
But
he likes a sophisticated woman.
Batman needs someone that can whoop his ass.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, and she could.
Yeah, she definitely could. I also thought, this is the way my stupid brain works. So in the scene where he goes to the courthouse to meet the guy whose legs he broke, Superman. So he goes and he has to go confront him because they ask him to come and talk to him face to face. So he flies in, he's in a Superman suit, right? So I thought when Superman has to put up appearances for the public, not just crime fighting, but say they're making a statue of him, or in this case, going to a hearing, he needs to have a suit, right? But not the Superman suit, like a business suit. He needs a business Superman suit. And it's red and blue, and he's still wearing the cape, but maybe the cape is do you tuck it in?
No, it's just,
I don't know.
Just you ever see the people that wear the tuxedos with the tail?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's just a red tail.
It's the red tail.
You know, like the tails?
Yeah.
The tuxedo tails?
Yeah.
But would it be a suit? Is it like one of those Christmas suits? You know how the ugly Christmas sweater was hot? Now you got to up your game. You got to get that the Christmas tree jacket and the pants, the full on Christmas.
So it looks
suit.
ridiculous. Don't get me wrong.
Does
It's
he
not
have
just a
little
blue and red
symbols?
suit.
Is it little symbols, or is it he's got the symbol on the shirt?
The symbol is on the shirt, but it's you button the suit.
Yeah.
It's half like a baseball jersey.
Oh yeah,
where it's
yeah,
half
yeah.
and half, right?
So it's half and half.
And the tie, we're not going to put Superman symbols on the tie because that's been done. It's just going to be one straight color. So I'm thinking the tie and the pocket square.
They're red?
Yeah, and the shoes are red.
Red shoes are hot.
Yeah, and the jacket and the pants are black or blue.
When's the last time you saw somebody flying without a cape? Because generally most people fly with a cape, right? What would it look like a guy flying in a suit? Imagine him floating down in a suit.
He doesn't need the cape to fly, right? I'm down on my Superman lore.
He doesn't need the cape.
The cape itself does not have powers,
it's
right?
just to look cool.
Yeah.
It's not like a magic carpet. It's
and another thing about Superman that I wanted to touch on, and there was a scene in the movie where he's I guess he's Clark Kent, and he sees that there's this kid who's about to die in a fire.
Yeah.
So he goes to get her real quick. So when he goes to get her, it seems like he does his hair even more so. It's even more
wetter,
slicked
dude.
back. It's wetter. Is he sweating? No, he doesn't sweat, right? He's an alien.
his hair, so he was sweating.
Yeah. So when he changed into a suit, did he do his hair real quick? Or is that just the way it becomes?
Dude, I think he just broke the villain scale because he has wet
He
hair.
has wet hair.
It's dripping.
Yeah. It's wetter than Clark Kent's.
Dude, oh my God.
It's part of the differentiation, so you can't tell the difference between Clark Kent and Superman.
That's a good observation
So
there.
do you think he has obviously can fly very fast, right? He can speed of light, right?
What if he flies to the hair guy? Gets the
Or
hair
does
guy to do it.
So when he's putting the suit on, does he have a hair guy, or when he puts the suit on, does he slick it back as he's in mid-flight?
Like,
can he do it all at once?
Maybe he flies through a rain cloud just to get it wet, so that when
he takes
like
that route,
he goes down. He goes out of his way
so
to go through the storm.
His Google Maps, he tries to find where the weather activity is.
He fired up weatherchannel.com on his phone.
Can he see Google like in his eyes? Like, does he have that technology where it's like, I don't know, we'll go too far.
He does.
Forget it.
One more thing before you move on, real quick.
Yeah.
Another thing that this movie could have used from a humor standpoint is drunken billionaire burns down home.
It's my favorite screenshot.
I love it from Batman Begins, the picture of Bruce Wayne reading the newspaper after he pretended to be a drunken billionaire. Like, there was a little bit of a drunken billionaire when he was in the server room and the lady called him and she's like, "What are you doing down here?" He's like, "I just had too much drink. Nice shoes, though."
Thought it was the bathroom.
I love that.
Every person who's trying to do some shady shit at a party always thinks it's the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's like the go-to excuse.
You got to pretend you're drunk.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was the bathroom. Whoa, where am I? Oh, this is the bedroom where I'm going through your computer files. But, I thought it was the bathroom.
I'm sorry. Isn't that what Arnold says to the little kid Dominic after he's in the mom's bedroom in Kindergarten Cop?
Uh-huh.
He's like, "What are you doing up here?" He's like, "I was looking for the bathroom."
This house is so big, I thought it was the bathroom.
It's not the bathroom, Arnold.
No, but that's my favorite screenshot. So, to wrap this up now, Justice League, it's coming out in 2 weeks.
Shooting in 2 weeks.
Shooting in 2 weeks, I'm sorry.
I would love it if it came out in 2 weeks.
And there were whispers saying, "Oh, what if the movie does poorly? Would they possibly pull Zack Snyder from it? They would have to put the movie on like a hiatus or cancel production or postpone production." Do you see that happening, or is it going to push through?
Dude, I don't know, man. I hope they don't, because it's going to change. I don't know how you can have a successful movie that changes directors 2 weeks before it starts shooting.
It's a recipe for disaster. So if they picked it up with a new director, it would probably
personally,
be
I feel
worse.
like they already invested in it. Just see it out, let it happen. And, if it doesn't work out, then whatever. Then you move on after. But I don't know. I think they should keep him, personally. But there's a petition of fans that are trying to get him fired. I think that's
weird.
crazy.
That's weird. People are stupid. I don't really have too much excitement for a Justice League movie. But if nothing else, I would like to see it if it gives us more Bruce Wayne, not just Batman, but if they're talking about Bruce Wayne gathering the troops, so to speak, I think that would be interesting.
That's what I'm
a fan of the Bruce Wayne character.
So in the one interview that I saw, Snyder was talking about, and at the end of the movie, you see Bruce Wayne is the one that actually says, "Hey, we got to get everybody together." Yeah. I thought it was going to be Wonder Woman, but it comes out to be him, and he says, "We got to get these people together. We've got all these people all over the place. We know what we need to do." It seems like that's going to be the way that the next movie is. It's going to be Bruce Wayne and Batman gathering the troops, so to speak. So I would be interested in it, but I really would like to see a solo Ben Affleck Batman movie.
That would be great. And I could be down for another Superman movie. I would rather actually have that than Justice League. I'd rather them just go on with these two characters where both of them are in each other's movies, maybe a little bit. Yeah. Maybe if it's a Batman-centric movie, Superman's in it a little bit.
He's supposed to show up in Suicide Squad. We'll see. Yeah. I think that's going to be... really...
Affleck?
Affleck's supposed to be Batman in Suicide Squad. So that is going to depend, I think, on a lot of these things going forward. They're already shooting Wonder Woman. They're shooting some of these other things. I don't think they're going to cancel production.
Right.
But I think Suicide Squad being good would help them out a lot, I think, from a critic standpoint.
What would you say you're more excited for in the future? A Suicide Squad that's going to be released this summer, or Justice League, which is probably 2 years down the line?
I think probably Justice League, just because the certain characters.
Yeah.
But I think I'm very excited for Suicide Squad because I'm really interested to see how Leto does as Joker. I know people don't like the look, but I'm looking more at the performance.
Fine. And we talked about it before. It's probably not as big a role as they're advertising it.
Yeah.
That he's in it, but I'm sure it's going to be powerful.
One of the different things that you'll see from DC to Marvel is it seems like Marvel has a very cohesive vision for how they want their universe to be. They have it's almost like design standards, right? I think from what Snyder and DC is doing, from what I've read, is that they're trying to let the individual directors kind of do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And it's like David Ayer's going to do what he's doing with Suicide Squad. I know that they've done some different things, like Guardians of the Galaxy had their own feel.
Right.
But I think by and large, they're taking that individual director and saying, "Hey, you've got creative freedom, go do your thing."
Yeah.
And there may be some cameos back and forth, but that's another interesting thing that I'm looking forward to about it.
All right, well, this is enough superhero talk for one lifetime for me, for one day.
You're done?
Yeah, I'm done. All right.
You're done. I could talk about this for 5 more hours, man.
Well, I'm going to give you time to talk a little bit more. This is the final question.
People are so tired of me right now. I have talked way too much if they're still listening.
Let's give it a rating. How would you rate this, sir? 1 to 10. 10 being Dark Knight, 1 being Batman Batman A Robin, colon, Dawn of Shit.
Batman ampersand Robin, Dawn of Shit.
That's a 0.
Dawn of Alfred getting cured on the by password. No, I would say I would give it like probably a 7.5, maybe an 8.
7.5.
I know that's going to be controversial with people, but I didn't think it was that bad. I would say 7.5 or an 8.
Yeah.
I did really like it, but it's not a standalone movie, and I think that's what people are confusing. As a standalone movie, no, I don't think it holds up, but not a lot of these do, and maybe that's their mistake.
Well, it's everyone's mistake in my opinion, but I give it a 7 just because I was fully entertained for 2.5 hours. Although I'm a fan of Batman, I'm not a fan of superhero movies, and it still managed to keep me in my seat, glued to the screen for the entire 2.5. Also, we didn't talk about the 3D. We saw it in 3D, RPX, and I thought it was pretty good. It was nothing to stand out, but it wasn't distracting.
I thought it was cool.
So,
it gave some depth to the scenes, especially the fight scenes.
Yeah.
And the rain at night. It made it look pretty good.
Yeah.
They've improved the technology, I think.
Yeah, so I thought that was... I'm not a big 3D guy, but I thought the 3D definitely enhanced it a little bit.
So you're saying 7?
I give it a 7, a solid 7.
I think that's respectable. I mean, it's certainly not a 0.
Yeah, I would give Dark Knight a 9, and I would probably, like, for example, I would give Avengers like a 7.5. And I know people love the Avengers, but I wasn't a...
So as a casual fan, you'd say...
So I think it's right on par. Avengers maybe was a little bit better, but I like the source material better of this.
I think the difference between Avengers and this is the Avengers spent the time building up the universe, and this tried to just jump at it. Yeah. And I think maybe that's what turned people off.
Right. So I don't think it's that far off, despite what the critics would say. But we're not critics. We're just a couple of jokers in your future daughter's father's basement. So
we don't have the accreditation on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
we just bash them, so I don't know if we'll ever get it.
So enough superheroes. Want to wrap this up?
So real quick before we leave, friend of the podcast, Chris O, wrote into us and said, "Hey guys, listen to your show about the rules for a reboot, the gate system that we created." And he said,
"Yes,
guess what? I found one for you. I know which one's right for it. Demolition Man."
Is that
something you might be interested in, Badway?
I love it. It's a movie that totally would be rebooted. It's been long enough. I totally see The Rock as John Sparta. Do you agree? Disagree?
I would say The Rock is probably the perfect person to play John Sparta these days.
He's got the charisma, and he can play the straight man.
Is he too jacked?
I don't know. Do you lose muscle if you're cryogenically frozen?
I don't know.
That's a question that wasn't asked in the first one.
I don't know.
Stallone was pretty jacked.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Maybe he's too jacked.
I don't know.
You're
freezing the cells, Drew. It's the cells. It's technology.
I feel like, based on the Total Recall reboot, we should just throw Colin Farrell in here. Let's put him in all of the reboots.
So who else you like? You like Colin Farrell also for the role?
I like Idris Elba personally. Yeah. Let's take it like he's a cool I know you said you didn't like him as an action star. You don't see him as an action star. Yeah, I do. I think he'd be good.
Like I think he could do Bond, but Bond isn't your traditional action star. Like as a guns blazing action star, I don't see it in him. Also, obviously, Liam Neeson is right for any kind of this role.
I think he's too old.
He is a little too old.
But if you get cryogenically frozen, he's not. I don't know. Maybe there's some aging.
Well, the spirit of the old Demolition Man, the original, was it's kind of Stallone was probably in his late 30s, early 40s, definitely not near retirement, and he was going after this young punk Simon Phoenix, who was at the oldest, I would say, in his low 30s, maybe even in his 20s. So this Liam Neeson character would be like 2 days from retirement. They wouldn't cryogenically freeze a guy 2 days from retirement. That's just cruel.
He's a little old.
They would just take his gun and badge away.
It's like, dude, you're going to get this nice retirement package. Yeah.
And give him the gold watch.
But what about Simon Phoenix? Who would you cast?
See, that's
Simon
harder.
Phoenix?
See, I came up with Tom Hardy. Like we both came up with Tom Hardy
would be awesome.
But he would turn his nose up at this role. It's definitely...
See, he wouldn't do it if The Rock... I can't see... Nothing against The Rock, but he wouldn't do it if The Rock was John Sparta. But if Elba or one of these like actors was in it, I think then he would do it.
He's very picky about his roles. I don't think he would play second fiddle to The Rock, not by a long shot. We got Michael Fassbender. I think he could play because you have to be charismatic to play Simon Phoenix as well as be believable as a villain. Right?
He could be a good bad guy.
Jamie Foxx was another one.
I like Ryan Reynolds. But maybe he's too funny.
Yeah, but
funny.
Simon Phoenix was definitely a joke cracker.
But that was the 90s.
He was vicious and a joke cracker.
Are we making this gritty? Or are we going
It's probably going to be darker. Although a lot of Demolition Man's charm was its jokes with both Rob Schneider and Sandra Bullock. But Ryan Reynolds can do it just because he pulled off Deadpool. He was a hero in Deadpool, but he certainly had a mean streak, to say the least.
You know who the perfect one is?
Huh.
Wesley Snipes.
Yes, we just want to bring him back.
Let's just reboot it with, like, you know what? Screw it. Let's put in Sylvester Stallone as John Sparta too.
I could say they could like have the same guy, but they can't cryogenically freeze Simon Phoenix again from the first one because he gets his head knocked off. So you can't.
But what if it fell into the cryogenic freezer?
Yes.
His head. They froze the head and they put it on a robot body.
Oh, it's like a Krang type thing.
There you go. Movie written. Why are we in Hollywood?
Put Zack Snyder on it.
So I think that'll do it for us. I had fun with this. I feel a little bit better, blowing off some steam.
Yeah, the movie is out there. Your feelings are out there. I know you were excited.
It didn't disappoint me.
No, not at all. I know you were fired up pre-watching just based on all the hate that I was getting. So in order to validate your own worries that it actually was good and it was not as bad as it seemed it could have been,
yeah,
I know that you can rest easy tonight because I know you had some many restless nights.
Put it this way, I'm going to watch it again, and I'm looking forward to watching it again.
In the theater?
We'll see, because I know my wife hasn't seen it yet, and I know she wanted to.
Yes.
So we'll probably go again and watch it, check it out. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe I'll like it more. Maybe I'll like it less. I'll update you on a future episode.
Yeah, we'll do another hour-long podcast.
That's an hour plus. Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully people are, I don't even know if anybody's listening anymore.
Oh, they're listening, Drew. We got them.
So if you like this episode, if you don't hate us by now, if you hated this movie but you don't hate us, you can go to our website, thelastrawpodcast.com. You can tell us that you hate us on Twitter @thelastrawpod, or you can tell us that you liked us.
Don't tell us you hate us, because I can't handle that.
Yeah.
All right?
I don't know if we can handle the criticism.
Yeah.
Or you can visit us on iTunes. Hit that subscribe button. Badway will hand deliver the episodes right to your iPhone or iOS device. He will deliver them himself.
So I can, like, is there like that just, if I put it in like the jack? Like, how do I hand deliver
Badway
it?
will plug your jack. Badway will jack you up. He will jack you in.
Remember the Galaxy commercials where you could just tap phones? That's what I'll do. But you have to have a Galaxy.
Badway will hit you up on iTunes. Visit us on iTunes. Leave us a review if you like us. Much appreciated. Thank you to everyone that's done so far. And we will see you guys next week.
See ya! I like the movie, but I feel like I need to start mocking up this Superman